welcome back to the Quick Lick series. This is episode 2, and today we're going to be hearing from Ndegeocello, who is pretty much my favourite bass player, maybe coming a close second to Anthony Jackson. Anyway, if you're not familiar with Michel's work, then stop watching this immediately and rush out and buy copies of her first 2 albums, which are Plantation Lullabies and Peace Beyond Passion, because pretty much every song on those 2 records has an amazing groove, at least one amazing groove, if not more. And those 2 records are really, really important, and still are really important in my sort of groove education. If you like, I've learned a ton of things, stolen a bunch of stuff from her. So check her out if you're not familiar. We're going to look at a tune called Step Into the Project, which is from Plantation Lullabies, and there's a little breakdown groove in the middle of that tune which really sort of caught my ear the first time I heard it. So here's how it goes.
Straight from the boom, right smack dab in the love. Poverty, insecurity, no one to motherfucking save me. Young black man lays his head on a young black thigh. Shook a child in a room. You hear the tears that the black man cries. Step.
The thing that really grabbed my attention about this line is the clever use of tritones. So we're in a 1-chord situation again, 1-chord vamp, but this time it's a minor 6th chord, G minor 6 to be exact. So it sounds like this. You've got root, major 6, minor 3rd. We could optionally put in the 5th, which would be D if we wanted to, but we don't have to. It's not essential, it doesn't really add anything to the chord. Bit of depth maybe, but it doesn't change the colour of the chord. So other minor 6th scenarios which people are generally familiar with, the little intro vamp at the start of the Cannibal Adderley recording of Autumn Leaves. That's the other minor 6th chord thing that people seem to know. This is obviously a more funky interpretation of that sound. We've got this. So if we break that down, what we're doing is we're exploiting this tritone interval all along the bass. So we've got the first tritone is here between B flat, the minor 3rd, and E, the major 6th. We've got that little shake that we saw last week, adding a little bit more funk, a little bit more grit to the line. So, and then here we're jumping up and we've got the root up here at the 12th fret, and then we've got a D flat, the flat 5. That's a completely acceptable thing to put on a minor chord, a bit more tension. And then here, down a minor 3rd, we have E natural to B flat, so that's the 6 and the flat 3. That one is the inversion, the reverse of what we had here, and that's a great thing about diminished type vocabulary, is it repeats symmetrically in minor 3rds, which makes it a great thing for the bass, which can be a pat-based instrument, shouldn't always be, but we can use it to our advantage and slightly turn our brains off and just let our fingers do the work. Don't do that all the time though. So here, could even fit that one in as well. So if we string that all together, later on in the transcription you can see we have another tritone. We've got this G to D flat, again root to flat 5, really hammering home that interval. The other thing that is great about this groove is the use of percussive open strings at sort of dead notes to add rhythmic interest. The pitch is not really important here. It's purely to provide a bit of rhythmic variety and make the line groove a little bit harder. So the first bar, we're approaching that flat 7, the F, from the D string, the open D string, but the D is not really there. It's more of a little percussive ghost note. You could use the G string if you wanted to vary the pitch. Doesn't really make that much difference to the line. Again, you can pop in that low E before the G. Happens with that low tritone more overtly. But adding those little things really, that's one of those little tricks that separates good bass players from great bass players, is this ability to add in rhythmic interest. And it doesn't always have to be in the key. if it's percussive enough, you can get away with a lot. The absolute undisputed champion of this was James Jamerson, who would often put in things like the open A string on a D flat chord, things like this. If we're approaching D flat the root, you can get away with using the A string as a pedal. Anthony Jackson, obviously sort of disciple of James Jamerson, is another premier exponent of that. So get used to popping in those little open strings as percussive dead notes, and it'll sort of add a bit more colour, a little bit more rhythmic variety to your lines.